Well, my name's Hannah Anketell, and I am a NLP coach, and I'm also a portrait photographer. I'm based in London most of the time, and particularly at the moment with the lockdown. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Eugenia.
Hi, Hannah, and welcome to my lockdown. How have you been with the lockdown and everything?
How have I been? Big question for such an intense time. But generally, I'd say pretty good. I've enjoyed having the space and the time and things slowing down. Nothing terrible's happened within my immediate network, so I'm very lucky, really. There's not been any sort of, anyone super ill or, suffering. So that's helps.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a mixture of things, really. It's very strange to be in a city in London. At the beginning of the lockdown, there was a lot of, I guess fear and scaremongering and things like that going on. And when you're in a city, you notice just how many people are here. And so that was sort of intense. And then again, with people going out and not working, you notice how many people are here. It's day by day. And I don't know, I think that's all it can be, day by day. Really.
Yeah.
If you get carried away with trying to plan into the future, I think you get quite stressed out.
Interesting. Glad to know.
That's my sort of sense at the moment, anyway.
But that's good. That's good. And actually, that's what we are talking about today, our well-being and how to stay present in the moment. And so I was reading an article yesterday and they did a survey, and that was around May, and they said the 3 top challenges people are facing are not knowing what the future looks like, the fear of being furloughed or made redundant, and the social isolation. That's what's disturbing the most. So just to begin with, what is well-being and how relevant is it to overcome these challenges?
So what is well-being? I think first and foremost, well-being is something to be explored by the individual, and I think it's a word that gets thrown around a lot. I think businesses have really enjoyed using that word and recognize that well-being is something that's really important, but actually understanding what well-being means for you and the individual, I think, is also really key. And if you were to break it down into sort of maybe 3 areas, I guess you could say it's your mind, your body, and then your inner self. And inner self meaning maybe your spirit, or maybe there's another word that you have for it. So I sort of break it down into those 3 just on a basic level. And then for me personally, I kind of just look at all areas of my life as a well-being practice and see where, for me, all areas meaning whether that's learning, whether that's finances, career, relationships, and looking at the whole picture. Because for me, well-being is about being balanced and grounded and able to function in stressful times, being able to still have great relationships with people, still being able to do passions. And so for me, if you're able to look at all those different areas and work out where isn't sort of perhaps functioning the best, you can tweak or change that in order to bring the balance back again, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you said there are 3 parts for you. That's the mind, the body, and the inner self. So how do they kind of connect? How do you manage them to bring that balance you were talking about?
Yeah, so I guess how do they connect? What's interesting is that you might look at one area, for example, your body, and you might enjoy a practice like yoga or sports, but you'll find the knock-on effect will also improve your mood and your emotion. It'll also help your sleep. It might actually give you something that gives you inner confidence, so then it ticks the box for inner self. So I think it depends, they all kind of cross over in different ways depending on what it is that you explore.
So you can do one thing to one part which will actually affect everything.
Yeah, and not always directly. It might not impact all 3, but you will find that there will be crossovers, which is why I think well-being is something really worthwhile exploring and understanding what it means for you, and recognizing that if you're only focused on your career and you're only focused on studying, but you don't look after your health and your body, as that starts to I don't know, deteriorate in some way, whether that's your sleep pattern or whether that's your memory or whatever, it starts to impact that area. So actually you do need to look at all three, in my opinion.
Wow. Are there special tips or strategies that kind of help us kind of maintain a positive well-being?
Yeah, I guess some tips and strategies. I guess the key thing for me is initially I thought well-being is something that I didn't have to explore thoroughly, and that it was something that would just come naturally. And then as I got into my sort of mid-20s, I realised that actually that wasn't the case. I had to, as I got busier, and I imagine for, you know, you guys at Coventry University London, if you've got really busy schedules and you've got lots of going on, you start to need to be able to schedule things in and find ways to review, I think, your well-being. Otherwise, I think it can get very sort of one track, you know, you just end up focusing on one area. So for me personally, I have a way of reviewing it, and I've got some tips and resources that we can put in the link below that we can share. But like personally for me, every week I need to just check in and see where I'm at. And that could be, you could do something like rating yourself from 1 to 10 in different areas. Okay. And if you're at a 3, for example, in health, then you know, actually, you know what, this week I need to go and do a health food shop. You know, if you notice that your energy is low because you haven't been sleeping very well, actually maybe I need to make an effort to get to bed half an hour earlier, and that will impact the rest of my day. Does that make sense?
It does. So are they like some basic stuff that we could be on the lookout for? Maybe our health, maybe conversations with people or something. Then we can kind of rate it. Just stuff.
Yeah. So I guess if you were to maybe create some topics or areas to look at, I'd say your health and relationships. Play, I think, is a really good one. And play could mean different things for different people. Just to give you an example, play for me could, I really enjoy characters, and I really enjoy writing short scripts, and I enjoy acting them out. My partner's an actor, and for me, I really get to play and enjoy being improvised in the moment. And for another person, play might be going for a walk in the woods with a friend, you know, but really allowing yourself to play and I guess connect to your inner child in some way. So that could be also drawing and painting. So that's one area. Another one would be family, finances, social, and I think mission or purpose is also a really good one to have as well.
Okay. How you are kind of meeting your target, or you're staying focused. Is that what you mean by mission or target and vision?
Sorry, mission or purpose. So I guess mission or purpose is maybe the thing that you want to bring into the world in some way. For example, you recording this, like maybe your mission is to connect with others, share resources, empower people through knowledge, through connected conversations. And sometimes those things aren't things that we can necessarily do straight away, but they're definitely things that feed us and feed our inner self and feed our spirit. So actually not to let that light go out while you might be focused on, you know, a huge career change or studying or, so, yeah. And then, I mean, what I wanted to share is there's a, I think it's called the Wheel of Life. Different people call it different things.
Yeah, I've heard it.
And you can colour that in. And so you can see visually where you're at, and it scales from 1 to 10. Done in a circle, and you can colour that in and have a look, and whether you do that once a month just to check in with yourself and see where you're at, and if something's feeling a bit out of balance. I think that's one of the easiest and simple tools that anybody can use, and even if that's the only step that you take to start having a look at your well-being, I think it gives a very quick, easy, clear picture about where you're at and where you can start to focus energy on.
Interesting. So Hannah, today I want to do something different with you. So something called Hello Hannah. I actually sent out a message to a few friends, and I told them I'm doing an interview with Anna. Some of them know you, some don't. And so it's called Hello Hannah. So it's about what they are feeling in the moment and how they can kind of deal with it or approach it.
Okay. Ready? Yeah, let's do it.
So first one, So he said, "Hello, Hannah. I'm living with a friend in a little apartment, and he seems to not take the whole situation lightly, which makes me worry. He has a lot of anxiety, mood swings, and stress, which also makes me stress and worry again. Any tips on how I can help him, or and how I can also deal with the anxiety and stress and the consequence of isolation?"
Wow. Okay. Wow, Eugenia, I like what you've done here. um, Gosh, I mean, it's tough. It's everybody's handling these situations differently. I think first and foremost, you have to respect that everybody has their own relationship to the situation in this pandemic, and also recognizing, and I think the hardest part is sometimes when we're going through stress or a difficult time, we can often turn to somebody else. But actually, the entire world is going through this situation at the same time. Yeah, and I can relate to that in different ways. Lots of friends of mine have definitely been struggling with anxiety, as have I at certain points. In terms of helping people, I think there's the old cliche that you can't really help people; they have to help themselves. But of course, you certainly can be very compassionate. You can be sensitive. You can lend a listening ear. I guess there's other things you can do as well, which is see if there's anything that they're in need of, or if there's anything in your household that needs to change or support you both at this time. Yeah, is there a way of having a conversation about how you can improve the situation, whether that's at home or whether it's improving the situation with how you're studying, but creating an open dialogue can be really helpful. I think the other thing that I would say is so important to find ways to connect to other people at the moment, and to still be social. I didn't realise how important that is on our mental health and our mental well-being. And I've looked at studies recently, particularly as my partner has a 6-year-old daughter, and we've looked at how the impact of that could really impact her long term by not being social and being around other people. And I think we all know that it's important to be social, but until we're in a situation like this, it's hard to really understand the impact of that. And I've noticed that when I've attended workshops or phone calls, like group video calls, my mood instantly changes. I feel really different. I feel able to articulate myself a lot more, particularly when the lockdown was really in full force and I wasn't really talking to anyone or seeing anyone. It really changed the way that I was feeling on a day-to-day basis, just talking to people on a video call. And I'm going to leave a link because there's some really great ways to be able to instigate things like that. Video calls with friends, or streaming things and watching things together, so you don't have to do that on your own. And also maybe trying out something new, like Airbnb, which I'll also put a link to, offer really great experiences. They're doing drawing classes. I saw a Mexican street food cooking class that I was thinking of trying, and you're doing it with complete strangers in all different parts of the world, and you're doing it together. And I think things like that, learning something new and being around other people, can really lift the spirit, and I think we really need that at the moment.
Perfect. Okay, second question.
Yeah.
So, hello, Hannah. I'm a high performance individual, and now that everything is slow, how can I get my mindset right and continue to perform at my best, even in these challenging times?
Great. Eugenia, what a great exercise. I've had the similar sort of experience. I guess the first thing is that perhaps think about the word right. You mentioned about getting your mindset right, but I don't think there's a right or wrong way for your mindset to be. So I'd say take that pressure off that there is a right way. Also, I think we're all, doing the best that we can under these unusual circumstances. So you mentioned about being your best. So perhaps recognize what best means for you, because everyone's idea of best is different. And notice if you have to adjust yourself. Like maybe there's a way or a shift that you need to make, or an adaptation that you have to make in order to be your best. For example, with things being new, there's lots of things that are impacting the way that I do things at the moment, whether that's the Wi-Fi not working very well and not being able to be really on a call, so I don't feel like I can be my best. But actually I'm doing the best that I can. It might not feel like I'm doing the best, but I'm absolutely doing the best that I can given all the circumstances and the things that are actually impacting my performance. If things are slowing down, perhaps this is like a really great opportunity to explore high performance habits. Like, what are your high performance habits, and are there areas that you can improve on to develop those skills? And I'd say for me, having structure and resources is really important for me. And so, just as you mentioned high performer, I thought this would be a great opportunity to mention this high performance planner, which I use every day. It's absolutely key for me to have structure to my day, to allow me to schedule the things that are most important, but also to review my high performance habits every day. Every day I get to rate my habits from 1 to 5, and I get to see every day which areas I need to improve on. So whether that's my energy, my courage, my productivity, I get to review it, and then the next day I get the opportunity to try again and to increase that to a 5. So I find that's also really helpful to keep me on track and being a high performer. So finding a way to create a schedule at home that works, that also can be amendable. For example, when the lockdown started, we had a lot more time and I wasn't working initially for the first few weeks. So I was able to do boxing every day for 1 hour.
Wow.
All of a sudden, my schedule's got really busy, but I've made a commitment that I can do minimum of 5 minutes a day. So I still feel like I'm in control. I've made a change and I can still keep doing the thing that I've enjoyed doing, and I'm still developing in it. So I guess it's finding ways to be flexible. For example, if your housemate comes back and that impacts something in the household, how can you be flexible with that moment rather than getting stressed out about, I have to do this in a particular way? So finding ways to be flexible with your new schedule too, if needed. I hope that's simple.
Yeah. So third one, hello Hannah. How do I identify and eliminate the stressors in my life and respond healthily to my experiences and environment?
Okay, this is a great question. Let me see if I can answer it. I guess the key thing is to develop your awareness in noticing when there's a shift or a trigger within yourself. So when there is a stressor, and I guess that could be something like anxiety or fear or stress or frustration, bringing awareness to noticing when that point comes, and noticing what the trigger point is, noticing what gets you into that state, so that you can begin to choose in the moment how to handle that situation. And I guess if you're not able to tune into those feelings, another way of doing it might be, as you notice there to be tension in your body or tension in your mind, sort of notice it, once that starts to happen, what was the thing that triggered that for you? Was it a trail of thoughts? Was it something that happened in your environment? And begin to pinpoint what it is. Where's the changing point for you? And I think once you recognise those, then you're able to choose your responses. And to sort of touch on responses, you mentioned about having a healthy response. I think to have a response is healthy, rather than to react. And what I mean by that is that, for example, well-being for me allows me to be more grounded, more present, and able to respond to my environment. If I'm frustrated and tense, I react to things, and it's almost like I can be in a fight with my environment rather than responding to it in the way that I want to and how I consciously choose to. So yeah, well-being is really important in being able to respond to things in a healthy way. So finding ways to be really kind to yourself, like really nurture yourself at this time. This is really stressful. Like everybody is really struggling with this in various ways, and one day it feels one way and the next day it feels something else. So I think finding a way to really focus on what nurtures you and what makes you feel grounded, whether that's making sure that every day you do something really kind for yourself, whether that's having a long hot bath, which is what I did last night for like 45 minutes, and I had the best sleep I've had in ages. And then I got up this morning like, wow, I just slept all the way through and I feel really great. Such a simple thing to do. Like, but I guess committing to just being really kind to yourself every day in some way that supports your stress levels or your anxiety levels. One of the tips I had, which I might as well share now, is like, give yourself a well-being date. Go on a date with yourself, whether that's 30 minutes, make it non-negotiable, put it in your diary, and whether that's either something that you're going to do already that you know, or taking that time to go, what is it that I need right now? And using that time to explore what are the things that support your well-being and what make you feel really good. Think back to times when you felt really relaxed and great. And I guess also adapt if it needs to be done differently. Video call a friend. You know, if you can't go and meet them, make it fun and video call them. Get a cup of tea on the go. Maybe make the same dinner together. Schedule that time together. You know, find new ways to be able to do the things that really nurture you.
I think that answers the next question. This person said, I'm an employee, a mother of 2 and a wife, and my hands are full almost all the time. How can I find some me time? And I think, yeah,
Sure.
that's what he said.
Well, and to add to that, I think the other thing is letting your partner and your children know. And I imagine that having 2 little girls and a husband and everything else that's going on, it must be really challenging to schedule that time. And equally, it's really, really important to find ways to give yourself that time so that you can continue giving to your family and giving to your husband. So I would say that one of the key things is finding a way to communicate that. So if your daughters are old enough, you can have that conversation with them too. And if not, perhaps the conversation is just to be had with your husband, but to let him know that every week you need some you time and schedule it in. Like, find a way to get it in the diary, and whether that's 10 minutes a day or whether that's an hour on Friday or whether that's half a day on Monday, however it's going to work for your household and your circumstances, schedule it in and explain to your husband why you need that time and why it's important, and make it something fun, you know. And if your girls are old enough to get involved in that conversation, you can all have that conversation. Another way that I manage that in my household with having a little girl here and my partner's 6-year-old daughter is I find time in the morning before everybody gets up, or I wait until his daughter's in bed asleep, and then I take some time for myself then. But I have to communicate that with my partner in order for him to respect the time or the space or me being in the office on my own, so that he understands where I'm at and why I need it.
You talked about teaching children as well. Any tips on how they can do that?
I guess it's really just about sharing why you're doing something. I'm always blown away by Charlotte, Nick's daughter, who's 6 years old, just how intuitive and aware she is of things, and how she actually knows how to do things herself. If she's feeling a bit frustrated, she might do something and do some movement and run around and shout a little bit. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably what I need to do. I need to change my physical state, and I need to get out of my head and not be so focused on the problem or the issue at hand, and just change my state for a minute. So I think kids actually respond much more than we might realize. And if you make a game of something, like, hey, how about we all have 20 minutes where we get to do whatever we want? And maybe your kids say, great, what can I play that game that I've been wanting to play for ages? Or can I read that book? Or can I, and make it fun rather than a chore or another thing to do. It's to actually make it more like, this is a way of life. This is actually something really important for everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So Helena, how do I stay present in the moment, in the midst of all the noise?
Great. How to stay present in the moment, in the midst of all the noise. Yeah, right. One of the key things that helps me immediately is like to do exercise first thing in the morning. That really helps me get in my body. When I'm in my body, I'm way more present. When I'm in my head and I'm thinking about everything, I'm off in a whole whirlwind of thoughts. So doing something physical straight away in the morning gets me in my body. An exercise that's quite fun to do is noticing things in your immediate environment. Sounds really simple, maybe even sounds silly, but just to notice the small things in your environment, to listen to everything in your environment. Even if that's when you're doing the washing up, to notice the temperature of the water, to notice the sounds that the water makes as you do the washing up. Again, sounds perhaps really simple, but it allows you to get very much into the moment and the immediate moment, and to sort of get you out of the thoughts that can lead you into thinking about the future or the past. And another key thing is screen time. Really, I don't think I can emphasize this enough, but I can be super addicted to my phone and my screens. And in the last year, I've had to create some disciplines that have helped me to become more present. So first thing in the morning, I don't have my phone on for the first hour of the day. And for the last hour of the day, no phones. I have my phone on silent all day because that suits me. I know when I need to be on a call or when I need to be in a meeting, so I have it on silent so it doesn't interrupt me throughout the day. If you can't do that, perhaps block out some of the day where you have no screen time or no phone time so that you can just be with your own thoughts. And I think it's going to be quite an important one. I think screens can really impact our state of being, our state of mind, and our concentration. What else to be present? Something as simple as, like, obviously meditation gets thrown around a lot, and it's not something I necessarily practice in the traditional way. But meditation could be something like going for a walk and just taking the time to really notice your environment, really notice what's around you. Yeah, even if it's like noticing the screw in the shelf unit, I'm wondering, where did that screw come from? Who made that screw? Like, what metal is that made from? Is that from this country? Oh, so just like honing into the very small details of being in the now.
Very true. Okay, just a couple more. So, hello, Hannah. Work has always been a big part of my life, but now that I'm home mostly, how do I create this work-life balance?
I think it's going to be different for different people. What's interesting, I imagine, Eugenia, and what's happening now is that because people do have the freedom to work from home, they might be recognizing or understanding other parts of themselves that enjoy perhaps getting up a bit later, or they're more productive at certain times of the day. I think keeping some kind of diary, a well-being diary in some way, whether that's on food and how food impacts you, or whether it's sleep or noticing your most productive times of the day, can really help and begin to shape and help you understand how to structure your day. So for some hours of the morning, from 5 till 7, when it's really quiet and they know they can really get their best work done, they might not work again for the rest of the day or till much later on in the afternoon. But I guess it's really learning your own rhythms and what works for you, rather than maybe forcing what you think you should do and what you think everyone else is doing and what you think your work needs to do. And it will be dependent on people. If you work for an American firm, you might have to work at certain times of the day for meetings with people in America. You know, so I guess you've got to factor in different things depending on the person. But finding a structure that works for you and working out what works for you, taking the time to work it out, actually, is probably the first step. Yeah. And I guess what's going on for a lot of people is people are getting to know themselves differently.
Yeah.
And they're getting to see different parts of themselves, which is also intense at times.
Very true, yeah. It's true. So someone said, hello, Hannah, that some mornings I wake up and I'm all fired up, ready to start my day. Other mornings, I don't even want to get out of my bed. How can I find the motivation to get through the day?
So there's someone that they get fired up and they can get up and get on with the day, but at the moment, they're not able to find that inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think so many people are experiencing this at the moment, and my first thing would be to say not to be so hard on yourself. Like, I think we're all really experiencing days where we feel like really energized and ready to take on the world, and then other days where it's just sort of, it's rather overwhelming, the collective experience that we're going through. And then I'd say if there are days where you don't feel like getting up, or if your body needs rest, like, listen to what your body needs. You don't always have to force and override what your body needs. Maybe it needs that rest, maybe it needs that extra time. But I do know if I do have a week where I need to be getting on, I've got meetings scheduled in and I need to be really on my A game, I'll start my day with something like 10 minutes of vigorous exercise, either that or boxing. I'll do press-ups, I'll do squats, I'll do press-ups, squats and sit-ups, and I might just do 3 rounds of those, 10 each of those, 3 times, and by the time I finish that, it's very hard to come back from that. And then if you need that other things through the day, then find the things that give you energy. Find things that give you energy in the day so that you can re-energize and re-motivate yourself through the day. I'd say don't just go hard at it without giving yourself breaks. Comfort breaks of some kind, movement breaks, connection time or a phone call with somebody, watching something that really inspires you or uplifts you. Something else that's really helped me is learning to do something new. So actually learning the art of boxing has really stimulated my mind, and it changes the way I interact with doing something physical, because I'm having to keep learning new things each day and build on what I've learned the day before, and it's definitely impacted my motivation and my inspiration level. So I highly recommend finding something new to do. And also having a healthy breakfast, like sending a positive message to yourself in the morning, like setting yourself up and setting your body up in a way that you feel motivated and you can carry that motivation on through your day.
Yeah, I every week try to learn something new, whether it's baking or making ice cream or reading something new. And it's exciting, just the journey itself and sharing it with people. It's quite exciting. That's like been like a therapy for me going forward.
Nice. I get this, like, making that commitment on one thing, whether it's fitness or whether it's health or whether it's learning something new, and scheduling it in the time of the day that will shift you into that positive headspace.
Okay, so last one. Hello, Hannah. What tips can you give me to help improve my well-being and thrive both personally and professionally? What can I do daily or regularly?
Great. Tips to improve well-being. And to improve personally and professionally. This is a great question and a big question. I guess a simple answer would be I would, if you haven't already, create a morning routine or a morning practice, one that can be done in 10 to 15 minutes so that you don't have any excuses why you can't do it, because we can always find 10 minutes. I guess well-being for me, whatever habits I develop, they have a knock-on effect. So it means that I show up more vibrant for my relationships when I look after my well-being, and it also means I show up more focused and energized for my work when I take care of my well-being. So finding a well-being practice in the morning, I actually can't recommend that enough. It's been absolutely life-changing for me. And just to give you an idea of what my morning practices looks like, and it changes depending on what I'm doing. It really, really depends on what I have going on as to what I might incorporate into my 10 minutes or my 15 minutes in the morning. As I mentioned earlier, doing vigorous exercise for 10 minutes to wake the body up and activate and release the endorphins, the serotonin, all of that improves my mood, gets me present and gets me set for the day. As I mentioned, having a smoothie or giving myself something really healthy sends a really nice positive message to my body, and it also means I'm more likely to carry on eating healthy through the day rather than snacking on stuff that's not good for me, which impacts my mood and my performance. I do really enjoy visualization. There's lots of tools you can look up visualization. Lots of athletes use that to win races or to win at the sports that they're, whatever sports they're training in. But visualizing how you want the day to go and visualizing positive outcomes is something that also just really lifts my mood and my spirit. Another thing I do in the morning is looking at my goals for the year, like a quick glance and reminding myself what's important, what excites me, why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. Also gives me energy and really supports me personally and professionally. And as I keep mentioning, this high performance planner, like every day it gives me razor sharp clarity, and having razor sharp clarity gives me a lot of energy and gives me a lot of focus. So those are having a morning practice and developing it yourself based on the things that work for you. I really, really recommend. Yeah, no. Another thing, actually, which I haven't mentioned at all, is doing something for somebody else.
Yeah.
I think that can take you straight out of your own head and your own anxiety and shift it to something else. So helping someone else, whether that's giving time, making time for a phone call, or even sending a message of gratitude or appreciation. I think that one simple exercise, even if you do that every day, just to reach out to somebody, whether it's family members or somebody who helped you at some point in your life, another student that helped you with an assignment. It's like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm thinking of you and I really appreciate the time you helped me out. I think that can really shift from you to other.
Yeah. So going out of your own self to help someone else, that could be fulfilling as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Anna, for your time. Any last things you want to tell us before we go?
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking about some of the tips, just to sort of summarize it. Find a way to review where you're at and what's going on for you, whatever way you want to do that, whether you rate different areas of your life from 1 to 5, just start to have a look and review and see what areas maybe need some attention. I think it's really important. One of the tips I gave was about going on a well-being date, so schedule something in and making it non-negotiable. And just, I guess the other part of that is reminding yourself why it's important. Like what are the things that it does for you? Like really connecting the dots, like noticing that you feel engaged with the world when you do those acts of generosity, noticing that your self-esteem changes when you make time to do that exercise, noticing that you're able to have the ability to express all your emotions when you allow yourself to interact with other people, rather than just being stuck with one emotion, but just really connecting the dots and recognizing why well-being is important for you and understanding what it means to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time, Hannah. Really, really enjoyed this.
Yes, thank you, Eugenia.
Yeah. A good week.
Yeah, I hope you have a great week.